And now we'll proceed with our workshop. Dr. La Torre, do we have any presentations this morning?
Good morning, President Ochoa, members of the board, guests. We have a presentation this morning by Dr. Lizzie Johnson, who will serve as the facilitator throughout this strategic action planning process. Dr. Johnson.
Sorry, we still have one more item as the citizens' input. Trustee Lucero, do we have citizens' input this evening?
No, we do not, President Ochoa.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Ochoa, Dr. De La Torre, members of the board. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's going to be a fun morning. It's exciting. This is an exciting process. And anytime you're thinking about the vision and the future of the school district, it's fun to think about that because you're thinking about students. And before I get into any logistics and any workshop type items, I want you to know that when I work with districts, the focus is always on students. Of course, adults are important in the district, teachers, staff, all of those components that make up our campuses and our admin building, but students are really the priority. And so when I work with this committee, I will remind them over and over again that we're in this room to make decisions for students and the best decisions. And so I just want to start the morning off that way because I want you to feel that today too as we talk about all of these items. So some of you know me because I've worked in the district before. My name's Dr. Lizzie Johnson. Please call me Lizzie. And I am going to serve as the third-party facilitator for the strategic action planning process with all of the committee members who will be engaging and enjoying this. And of course, we'll have numerous people from around the district, stakeholders, and a good cross-representation of your district who will come together to build out this plan so that the district has a roadmap, you might say, as we move forward. I live in Denton, Texas. I'm the CEO and owner of Transcend 4, which is an educational consulting company. And I spent many years in public ed. Started my career in 1996 in the public education spectrum and was everything from a middle school teacher to a high school swim coach to a campus admin and then ultimately district administration. And when I finished my doctorate, I went on to have my dream of not having a boss. And so I always tell Dr. De La Torre and other superintendents that I work with that being a superintendent was never my goal because I didn't want to have 7 bosses. But, that's just how I am, okay? And so, and he knows because I've told him that before. So I'm excited. You love it, though. That's right. But I'm excited to be here because what we're doing and what we're going to do with this committee and thinking about the planning is so fun. So years prior, I actually helped your district facilitate the bond planning committee in 2018. And we helped put the bond package together that was ultimately presented to you and very successful in your community. And you've seen all of those great things happen. But that room's a little high energy because a little angst because you start talking about money and people's taxes and those kind of things. This is so different because what we're doing is setting a vision for the school district, setting a vision as we move forward for students. And so it's more celebratory in nature, and everyone that participates in this is excited because they get to learn so much about the school district and so much about what students are already doing, but where we want to take them in the future. So that is a broad overview of who I am and what we're doing today. And my goal today is to set a foundation with you because ultimately you're going to be asked, well, what is that committee doing? And what is their goal? And why are they meeting in that room? And what are they thinking about? And I want you to be able to go out and relay this information to the people in your communities and explain to them what we're doing with this planning process. Okay, great. So today we are going to, we're obviously doing some welcome and introductions. I'm going to give you an overview of the strategic action planning process and what different roles are in that process. So we have roles of the committee, roles of leadership, and then your role as a board of trustee. And then we're going to look at the the agendas that we've set forward for the committee. Now, I always say, these are a template. We have a good roadmap moving forward for the agendas that this committee will use, but sometimes we have to change that because we want to make sure we meet the needs of the people that are on the committee so that they're able to understand where we're going with this process. And if they have different things they need to know, then we just ebb and flow to that area. But we have a good starting point, what I'm going to show you with our agendas. And then we're going to unveil the priority focus areas, and I'm going to talk about all of those things. And then we're going to visit your mission, vision, core values, and motto. Today, we may not dive into that so deep, where we're actually creating new ones or editing them. I'm going to give you an overview of what those look like and what you currently have. And then when we come back to our next session, that's when we'll really look at updating those and revising and editing them. So I would say today is a lot of information, but I definitely want you to engage in this and talk and ask questions, and let's make sure you understand where this committee is going and what their goals are as they are going to start working in the fall. So before we get started, I'd like to know a little something about you. So I'd like for the Board of Trustees to just tell me how long they've been on the board. I know some of those answers. And what was your main reason to come into the board and be on the Board of Trustees for Isleta ISD? And Mr. Hernandez, I'm going to start with you. Sure. Okay, great.
Yes, I'm Chris Hernandez. I've been on the board for less than a year. In June, it'll be a year. I have daughters in the district. I have a nephew and niece that I'm very close with, also in the district. So I wanted to be at the forefront and making sure my daughters, my nephew, my niece, and with that, every student in the district is receiving the best possible education possible. I also have a background as a community organizer, so being a voice for my community was extremely important to me. And also being able to communicate with them what's happening in the district. I think a lot of my community members feel left out in the process. And, that was something I was looking to change. So it's mainly those two things why I decided to run.
Good, very personal, but I love that because what you're going to see in this process is we're going to bring them into the fold. And of course, we can't have them all in the room representing the entire group, but the ones that are will be able to go out and speak to these items in their community and get feedback from them and bring them back into the group.
Absolutely.
So I love that. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Dwyer.
Yes, like Mr. Hernandez, I've been on the board for almost a year. I was a teacher and coach in the Isleta district for 30 years. I felt like I could bring a different perspective to the school board. With the goal in mind, the number one priority, making sure every one of the 36,000 students in our district had whatever he or she needed in the classroom. And then, I guess, second, third, make sure safety and security is the best in the state of Texas, if not the nation. And then making sure teachers, paraprofessionals, ancillary, everybody is considered when we make these decisions.
Yes, I love that. And safety and security is actually going to be one of our focus areas. So that's very pertinent to this process. Thank you so much. Ms. Lucero?
Good morning. I've been on the board since 2017. I've been a parent of the district for 27 years. So all my children have been through the district, and I have one left. And I originally joined because somebody told me it would be fun. And I could just, wave at parades. But obviously that wasn't my main reason, but it was something different than what I've ever done. And I always felt that I needed to know more as a parent. I felt really lost in this huge, beautiful organization. And so it's kind of what I bring, the side of I'm always rooting for the underdog, not the parents are, but we definitely need to know more as we're navigating the system. So my main focus now, and I don't want to speak for all of the board members, but it's students. It's always students first. I feel that all of the decisions we make as a board is always considering how will it affect our students. So I was happy to hear that that's what you base today and the planning on. So thank you.
Yeah, it's all of it. And we're going to focus on kids throughout the whole process. So it's so great. Mr. Bustillos?
Good morning. Yes, so I have 7 years on the board, and I coach. I'm not a real coach, like degreed coach, but I coach Little League. So I have a bunch of little kids out there in my community, and they're all from my community. And parents asked me to run because they saw a lot of discrepancy, a lot of stuff going on that we just weren't getting the representation. So I am not a politician. This is the first time I ever did this and got in. And I said, well, let's see how it goes. But, you know, with this group right here, you learn so much every day. This group right here is very intelligent, very smart. And I'm very grateful to them for helping me, guide me through my 7 years. And not only that, I think we've done some great things with Dr. De La Torre. So with that said, that's how I came on the board, and, you know, that's how we continue.
Great. That's great. And I think when you look at this process, you're going to see it does really break out items that are so pertinent to students and
Yes.
to communities.
Absolutely.
And so, and it's good for all of you to be engaged in this, because then you can go back and tell your community what this is looking like for the school district.
And then being a coach, it's easy to navigate through, you know, from elementary all the way to high school, because I'm able to talk to parents every day and engage.
Sure.
So those are my meetings.
Yeah.
At practice, they get together and
I
they, what
love
are we
it.
doing with this, and what are we doing? So,
That's great.
yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
it helps out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ochoa?
I think Mr. Bustillos is a coach. Anytime you take a group of kids and try to instruct them on anything, you become a coach. I'm a little bit different. My background is, I think, different from most people. I graduated from high school, and then I went to work for the railroad for 18 years, which I thought that was going to be my career. But then in the middle of that, I changed my vision and went back to school and got my degree in electrical engineering. So I became an engineer at White Sands. I worked there for 23 years. That was a very interesting job because I like technical stuff. And then after that, I retired, and then I was bored, so I went and taught for 5 years at one of the neighboring high schools here, engineering. And at that time, I think I got elected to be on this board. I got on this board because I thought that I could make a difference. Not a big difference, but small differences. And it has been proven to be that. You take one step at a time. You cannot go in there and change the whole world just because you're on the board. So I just said, you know, I'll just take step by step and see what happens with my fellow board members and Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Dwyer, who has just recently joined us. We haven't missed a beat, even though credit to our other previous board members. We have continued to have that vision, which is to provide the education that our children need, because this is a very challenging world now that we live in. So we're always asking, what can we do? What programs do we have? And I started on the board just to provide, like I said, just provide a little bit of support for what the superintendent and the rest of the staff was doing. But I think over the years, we have learned to respect and trust each other enough for that. From that comes about a good working relationship that has made us more effective in the long run in doing the things that Dr. De La Torre and his staff proposed, and then we look at it. We ask questions for sure, but in the long run, I think it's provided us a good path to what the future is coming for my children. My children, I've had all my children go through this Isleta Independent School District. Now I have grandchildren at this time that are still going to school. So I have a big investment into what's happening. But it's just a a journey that I never expected, but I surely embrace it because it has, I think in a small way, I'm making a small difference as to what's happening in our district.
That's fantastic. Thank you. High-functioning school boards mean high-functioning districts. And when you can operate at that level, it means so much more to your communities, and it makes such a bigger difference for your student outcomes. And not just data, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about student outcomes in the area of soft skills, being able to be postgraduate success, all of those things. And so you functioning as governors of a high-functioning district helps the leadership manage the district. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, Ms. Woodruff.
So my name's Connie Woodruff. I've been on the board for almost 11 years. It'd be like about a month for it being 11 years. When I have, and I always tell people don't faint, I've got 10 children. They were all very athletic children, and they all graduated from Bel Air High School, which is one of our, I'm going to say it, premier high schools in El Paso. And so
You're not biased at all.
I'm not,
right?
not at all, not at all. No, but yes, I am. But anyway, when I was taking my kids, they're all fairly athletic, very athletic, really. And I was taking them to practices and picking them up from different things. I had several coaches, and actually Mr. Dwyer was one of those coaches, who would come to me and say, Connie, please run for the board. We need you. We need you to represent us. And I would go, sure, no problem. And I really didn't mean it. Until I really didn't. I'm sorry, Mr. Dwyer. Until I was in church one day, and I believe that I had a calling from God. He told me, get out of your comfort zone, do what I want you to do here. And when I received that calling, I realized that it meant I needed to come onto the board.
Sure.
And this really was not my comfort zone at all. And so I went ahead and ran, and I won, and the rest is kind of history, except that I do feel like that being on this board has been a progression to where that I feel like that we have really accomplished so much for our children and for our district. And even with my children graduated, I still have, I have 4 grandchildren who are going to school in the district. And so I just want to continue working for the things that will make this district even better than what it already is.
Sure. Yes, you've seen a true progression over those 11 years.
I
Lots of
really have.
changes and
I really
everything. Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's a great segue into the fact that you've run off a really solid strategic action plan in this district. It's very, very good. And I remember when I first came into the district and started working in 2018, and I sat down with Dr. Chacon, and we were looking at things, and I was like, this is great. What a great, template here. And then you had the Encore, and we updated it, and we talked to students and faculty and really dug in and made sure it was, where it needed to be to finish out the last 5 years. And now here we are at a new place where we're going to keep going even further. And so when you think about continuous improvement, you think, here's where we are and here's where we want to be. Nobody's saying anything's wrong, but what we want to do is reach that pinnacle and keep progressing. So in the middle is a gap, and that's what we're going to close. We're going to close the gap, and we're going to have this committee work on that, and this is going to be their plan. So no one's walking in with a rubber stamp or a document for them to rubber stamp. They will build this out. They will look towards the vision of the future of the district, and we will allow their voices to be heard. And I think that's super important when you think about strategic planning, because you really want your community to be committed to it. I don't say buy-in because I don't want somebody just to buy in. I want them to be committed, and I want them to be very excited about where this is going. Okay, great, awesome. Thank y'all so much. I just love to know those things because it just shows the commitment in the room and why you're here. Okay, so I want you to just for a minute think about this room. I'm just going to use it as an example, with 7 to 8 tables. And at those tables, you have various members of your community. Maybe we're going to have a high school student at every table, because you know why? Those are your clients. And they know a lot about the district. And so we want student voice in the room. So they're going to be a part of this process. Let's think you're going to have a business person at the table. Maybe, definitely a parent representative, a teacher, some type of staff member. You will also be thinking maybe there's a clergy in your area that could be at that table. Maybe we have a civic person who works at the chamber or is in local government. So think in terms of roles and someone who people can look to and say, oh, I know that person. I know Jim, and Jim is my neighbor, or Jim is at the same workplace as me, or whatever it might be, and I trust him, and I know he's going to go in that room and he's going to represent our area, our community, and bring to light the things that need to be put into this plan. So that's what this process does. It allows the district to bring together community members, staff, faculty, students, and work on 4 things. And those 4 things are to clarify the district's vision, mission, core values, and motto, which are very foundational. And we want to make sure those are in place before the committee even gets started. Second, we want to speak with one voice, and we want to travel in the same direction. You know, you think about traffic on the freeway and things like that. People are going all different directions, moving in lanes, and it's chaos. Okay, especially here on a Friday afternoon. When I come to El Paso Friday afternoon on I-10, that's crazy. So we don't want to do that. We don't want Ysleta ISD doing that. We want to all be moving in the same direction and have a plan to do that. And then finally, the 4th and most important thing, even though it's at the bottom, it's the big key thing. We want to support students in all areas of their education. So like I said before, it's not test scores, it's not just data from academics, but this is a well-rounded student that we want. We know all students aren't going to college, but we want to make sure when they leave Ysleta ISD that they are prepared for real world, to work in the real world, to be able to support themselves and to have fulfilling lives. We want to prepare students who, when they walk off the stage at graduation, are greeted by college recruiters, military recruiters, vocational recruiters, all kinds of people. We want them just pulling at your kids saying, come with us, we want you. That's graduate success. And so that's what this plan is going to do. It's going to set them all up to go to that level. And this plan will impact kindergartners too. It's going to move them all through their years of schooling here in the district. So the end result is this wonderful document we're going to put together, and it's a statement of the district's guiding strategy on what it intends to accomplish and the key initiatives for achieving it. So obviously we're going to have big, bold words and all these great statements, but we're going to have some substance to it, so we say how we're going to get there. So this committee is going to tell the district, this is what we want Ysleta ISD to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. And then the district will go in and figure out how to do it. And that's what's so important about this, because not everybody in the room is in education, right? These are people that come from your community. They don't work in schools. They don't know those types of lingo and all of the intricacies, but they know what they want their schools to look like, right? They want successful schools. They don't want schools that are chaotic and, you know, where things aren't going well and the leaders aren't doing well. They want solid schools, because that's what builds a solid community. So that's the key to this, is the community will tell us, the committee will tell us how they want Ysleta to look, and then the district will go figure out how to make it happen. And you've got smart people in your leadership, and I know that they can do it. Okay, any questions about that? Any questions about the foundation? Mr. Ochoa, you good? Okay, great. So this is a tiny little slide, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to just give you an overview. What's the current state of the district? And then we move into creating a graduate profile. So this committee will create a profile of what an Ysleta ISD graduate looks like. And we'll be able to use that throughout the district, and you will use that as marketing tools and to be able to tell people when students leave Ysleta ISD and graduate, this is what they will have in their toolbox. So that committee will put this together. And then the bottom stair step is what the committee will be working on. They will work on priorities, objectives, measurements, annual action steps, and then monitoring. Because obviously this plan is living. It's not just going to go in a book and be put on a shelf. It's going to be monitored, just like your current one is monitored, and probably a part of your superintendent's evaluation, maybe, as we think forward. Okay. So just thinking in those terms, this plan outlines a lot of things and puts a lot of things in place. Okay? What'd you say? Okay. Oh, okay. I like that. So I want to go back to one thing. So I want to give a shout out to Hector Sines, who's behind the window there. But this is our logo that we are going to use with the committee, the cap, the mortarboard, excuse me, and that, has a compass on it. And so we are navigating to where we want the district to be. And obviously, graduate success is the key part of that. So thank you, Hector. Appreciate you for doing that. It's a great motto. We love it, or logo. Okay. All right, so let's talk about roles. And those 3 words a lot. Those are the tables that will work in this room. Each of those tables is going to have a separate focus. So we're going to show you those in a minute, but it's a focus area that's very important, like safety and security. So let's say, Mr. Dwyer, there's one whole table in this room. Their whole focus is going to be safety and security. And they are going to create that part of the strategic action plan. And then another table will be another focus area. The reason we do that is because we want it to be very concentrated, and we want those tables to be very knowledgeable about what they are working on. So they will have lots of data and lots of information, and they will have someone at that table who is a true expert in that area that works in the district, so they can help support them and answer questions and things of that nature. Now, why would you silo them? Well, let me explain that to you. Eventually, and then towards the middle to the end of the process, the safety and security table is going to take everything they've created, and they're going to walk over, let's say, to an academic focus table, and they're going to present to each other, and they're going to get feedback, and they're going to talk about what they're creating. So everyone in the room will always know what the other tables are doing, and that way they get feedback and they have good commitment. So when they walk out, they can't say, well, I didn't know what that other table was doing. I didn't know what they were creating over there. That will never happen in this room. The reason we don't allow the entire room to work on every focus area is because it would take us 2 years to get through that. Because it's so much detail and information. So we want one concentrated table, very much focused on one area, and doing it very well. So they will review their district data. They will collaborate across to other areas to ensure an aligned strategic action plan. They will draft the district's objectives, measurements, action steps with support from the table facilitator. So, as a finance table, if you have a finance table, someone would sit at that table who's very well versed in Ysleta ISD finance. And they would help that table answer questions, and as they want to know more about the finances in the district and as they're building out the plan. And then that group, those priority focus areas, that's your committee, they will present the final presentation of the strategic action plan to all of you. And that would be up for informational and consent item on your agenda in a school board meeting. And then we move to superintendent and leadership team. So what's their role? Well, they'll be in the room helping, guiding, answering questions, but eventually their job is to deploy the strategic action plan. They are going to be implementing it, making sure it's running well, working, that the data is good, that things are really moving along for students. They will monitor and also adjust the plan as needed, which is exactly what you did 5 years ago when you went back in and looked at the current plan that's in its end. So they also have the ability to bring the committee back together every year and update them on where the plan stands, where we are with data, how we've done throughout the year. And then that's the collaborate and plan with the group, so strategic action group. Okay, and here's the most important people in the room, Board of Trustees. All right, so your job is going to be to edit, update, create the vision, mission, core values, and motto for the district. And why is that so important? Well, that's the foundation for this group. So if they have those 4 items, and I present those to them the first night that they start working, they have a true understanding of where you, as the Board of Trustees, see the district going with those big items there. So we're going to talk about those later, and I know I sent you some pre-work to think about them, but we'll get to that point. So that's one of your roles. The second, you will formally approve the strategic action plan for the district. You will receive timely updates from district leadership regarding the measurements and timelines as the plan is implemented, which probably goes back to the scorecard and keeping that up to date. And I know that you all have been given that and updated many times throughout the year. And then finally, utilize the strategic action plan in conjunction with the superintendent evaluation process. Now, there's some things up there that I don't always add in because I can make that list really long. But I think another thing for you to think about with this plan, obviously you approve expenditures in the district when there's things that are bought, money that is spent. I think at any time you should go back to the strategic action plan and say, okay, we're approving this expenditure. Where does this fall in our objectives and our goals? Why is this important for students? I think it's just a good guide for anything like that because it helps you to keep the main thing, which is students and student outcomes. So those are our big roles in this planning process and then as the plan is deployed. Okay, any questions or any thoughts? No, you're not gonna do this in 2 hours. Today's all just get to know Lizzie and here we go and foundations, okay?
You mentioned different tables. You mentioned finance, academics. Do you have an idea how many tables are we talking about?
Yes, I do, right here.
Okay.
Good. I love it. You're thinking ahead. Okay. So as through talking with leadership and thinking about your big focus areas, this is what has come to the forefront. So you have to think in this room, we'll have one table for each of these areas, and that's what they will focus on. So safety and security, which is very important. Financial stability. Now think about financial stability, not just money, right? That could be facilities, resources. There's a whole bunch of things that could go under that. So if we line item everything out that was important, we'd have 100 tables in this room, and we can't do that. Because this kind of plan, you don't want it to be, 80, 90 pages. You want it to be very succinct and very to the point. And so that's why we're gonna have big focus areas that a lot of things can fall underneath them, okay? Culture and climate, which is your people, that's very important to this district. CCMR, which is college, career, military readiness, and that's also, part of your CTE programs and all of those great things that you have that roadmap for that the district is using. Early education, academics, and special populations. So right now, those are the 7 areas that have been identified as focus areas for the committee to build the plan from. So let's talk that through. Any comments?
What is special
Lucille?
populations?
Brenda, you want to answer?
Special populations includes our EB, emergent bilingual students, our special ed students, our military-connected students, our foster students, homeless students, at-risk students, any type of population that we get that we serve in our district. So I want to make sure we keep a good eye on them. As you know, Domain 3 is closing the gaps. So we always want to make sure we're addressing all our students.
Yes, sir.
What area would attendance fall under? Would it be financial stability?
Sometimes we see that under financial stability because of the funding from the state and ensuring students are in the seat. So yes, that definitely, and under financial stability could also be recruitment of students and making sure we have as many students as we can serve in the district. So yes, sir. thoughts? Any thoughts on anything you see? Yes, Ms. Woodard.
So one of my favorite areas is early education. And I really am glad to see that on this list because I think ISLET is doing a fantastic job with it. But I think in the past and with other things, we haven't focused so much on our little kids. And that's the foundation of education right there. You set the quality of a child's education in that area right there. So I'm really glad to see early education as one of our main focus areas.
Good. Yes, research shows that if a child is engaged in pre-K or EC childhood education, that they have so much more of an advantage as they progress through the grades, especially in the area of literacy. And as we know, every test they take is a reading test, whether it's science-based, math-based, it doesn't matter. They're all reading tests now. Thank you.
And I think that another possible priority area, and I think Trustee Hernandez brings this up and brought it up earlier today, and that is that parent community engagement is a really important element. People have to feel engaged, connected, informed, communicated to, being allowed to communicate to us. Would that fall under culture, climate?
Definitely could, or if you wanted to create a separate table, a separate area for the plan where that's addressed individually, we could do that as well. And that would create 8 tables in the room. That would be no problem. Dr. Chacon, will you make a note of that, please? Thank you.
This might be covered later, but how are the committee members being chosen?
Okay, that's a good question. Dr. Delatorre, do you want to speak to that?
There's a variety of ways. Obviously, if we're looking at students, we want them to be a little older so that they can engage. So we would work with their principal to see who on that campus is someone that's well regarded, respected, can speak to things going on at their campus. Maybe somebody on ASB, maybe the president, student council, someone from that school would likely come from the leadership at that school. Teachers, there's 2 ways to do it. We could invite 2 teachers. One, the administration could select. The other, we could go to the association and ask for nominations or people that are active in YTA, active in the West Texas Association, so that their views are included. We could ask the teachers without the administration to nominate someone at their particular campus who they'd like to see come speak on behalf of that campus. Administrators, we would look at who on the leadership teams could come and contribute. Parents, I would ask the parents to make their community, or I would ask the principals to make their community aware of this process, what we're trying to accomplish, and have them submit some notice of interest. And then if we get more people than we need, then we'd have to figure out which one of those or 2 of those would we like to include. It's really up to you. They're going to, the categories are the categories, but the actual people are, I think, have to be people that you also feel comfortable with having on the committee.
And it's a commitment because this is 5 meetings, and we definitely want people who will be there at all 5. Because as you know, if you come in and out of meetings like this, you lose depth because you're not there for the information. So yes, sir. And starting in the fall, mid-fall is what our goal. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I believe we were notified or given a heads up about these, the people who will be at these tables. I thought you mentioned business community. business people that are in the area.
Business leaders.
Civic.
Civic, business leaders, clergy. Once we get the tables or the priority areas, I think, established, then the next step is what does that group at each table look like? And my guess is you want representation from all 7 separate and distinct learning communities, both in terms of business people, civic leaders, local politicians, but you can't have the group get so big to where you couldn't manage the table. I'm guessing 8 to 10.
8 to 10 is a great number at a table. You get more than 10 and people won't share. They go inward. More than 10 people make some people feel very, self-conscious. So we don't want to a point where there's not good collaboration and conversation at the table. So yeah, about 8 to 10 at each table is a good number.
What about as a starting point, if we, prior to the next meeting, ask you all to think about 5, 6, 7 people who name and what they currently do in the district? In other words, civic leader, business owner, just sort of something so that we know what category they're in. I don't know that we can include all of them, but if you'd put them kind of in order of priority, who you'd really like to see on there, then forward that to me and we'll get that to Dr. Johnson.
And I can even create a document if y'all just want to fill it in. And I can put the categories in it, and you could put a check on where that person would fit in that category, make it easy. And then that way we just have a living document where everybody's filling in their suggestions. Great. Yes, and I love the idea of working with the principals to have a junior or senior at each table. One thing I found is adults act better when students are in the room. So that's one thing, right? They do. They're setting an example. It happens, y'all. It's truthful. But secondly, I think that the students bring such an air of true representation. They've been in these buildings. They've gone through these programs. They've been in Ysleta ISD. And even though these juniors and seniors may not be impacted by this plan necessarily, they're thinking about the younger children that are coming up through your system, and some may have siblings and other family members that would be impacted, and so that's why it's so powerful. And the night that we present the final plan to you all, we will have some students come to present to you as well, and you can hear from them about what their experience was like. And what I hear many times is they say, I learned so much in this committee that I had no idea about the district, especially when finances are presented, because they don't see that side of the world, and when they start seeing what a school district budget looks like and where 80 to 85% of the money goes and how you have that small portion left to run the district and, anything about public school finance, they love it. So it's good. It's a great opportunity for them. Yes, ma'am.
I know you said 5 meetings starting in the fall. What does that schedule look like?
We have that schedule. We have a tentative schedule, and I believe it's the first meeting starts in October, and then we'll do 1 meeting each month, and then through the spring too. So, and then the final meeting or presentation will come to you when the committee is finished with their work.
Yeah, the idea is to have it in place by July 1 of 2025. Y'all are only in the first 2 meetings. So the people that you're thinking about would then have to be available for the last 3, 4 meetings.
And we will have a contingency meeting at the end if we need it, a 6th meeting. If we feel like we haven't finished the work and we need some more time, we always build that in because we don't want to rush them. We want this to be a really good process. Okay? All right. So this is, yes, sir.
Now there's like a little elephant in the room.
Okay.
Several of the trustees have spouses that work in the district. Most of the trustees have spouses. And so the question is, are they eligible to participate, not eligible to participate? And I'm asking y'all the question. How do you want to treat that? Gary's very involved at Bel Air. Gary's been very involved with both of the bond programs. Charlie's wife works in the district. Chris's wife is a volunteer, constant volunteer at Paso. It's just up to you guys.
I'm fine with it because I want to be able to recruit my daughter who has a special needs child at the district. And I think that her voice would be an important impact for that particular community. So I'm okay with it.
I don't
It's
have
just my view.
an opinion one way or the other. I just wanted to clear the air up front so that when you're thinking about it,
I actually think that they have a unique perspective because they are employees of the district or family or whatever of the district. And so they've kind of seen both sides of the inner workings of the schools, but also the workings of the board, actually. And they kind of have a unique perspective. And that way, I don't see any of the spouses that have been mentioned skewing things one way or the other. I think that they would just bring a good perspective. That's my opinion.
And they're not the final rule either. Yeah.
I think for me, it's tempting to want to have my wife or my sister-in-law do it, but I feel I'm already voicing their concerns. I mean, their concerns are probably they're obviously the first ones I hear, and I feel like I already have them involved that way. And I'm hoping that, I feel like that would be a last resort for me. Like, I couldn't get anybody else, so I have to ask my wife, hey, can you do it? Instead of finding some new blood and letting other community members feel like they also have a voice and they can also have the process other than, well, it's the trustee's wife who gets to be on the committee, of course, and the district's just going to do whatever they want, which is something I hear a lot in my community. Like, why should I be a part of that? They're just going to do whatever they want. I really want to change that, and I feel it's more likely to get new people involved that haven't been part of the process before.
Who aren't connected. Mhm. And I think ultimately you have to remember, this is going to come to you as a governing body to vote on, the final plan. And so that is also something to think about, that you don't want to gray that area and someone think that you had influence on it from outside of the room. So that's a consultant's opinion.
I just want to say something real quick. I agree with Chris, even though, I know Mr. Woodruff, and I know and my wife would be great advocates. I think keeping it neutral is always good. It's always good, so. And I do advocate for mine. Even though I fall asleep, I'm listening. So I come back and listen, so. But I agree with Chris on that.
I think that going along with Chris's idea is not so much, I certainly welcome all spouses or anything that's related to you as being a board member, but I think that how we're viewed by our community, how we're viewed by our teachers, I think we have to have an open mind and say, you know what, I don't want them thinking that this is a close-knit organization where they just get excluded. So I'm more open to selecting somebody that from the teacher's point of view that is out there that wants to have a say-so. And I think that would be, from a perspective view, as to how we operate, I think that I would say they're very open to anybody joining that, and especially if they're not relatives or cousins or even close friends. I think I would more than likely choose somebody that I really didn't know, that I get recommendations that they are.
From other people.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
one of the things that we did do during the two bond programs was we want to invite people that may not have a positive opinion of the district because it gives us an opportunity, right, to get them involved. And if we can get them to flip, or at least take a step in the right direction, then we know we're doing good work. Because they're coming in expecting, maybe, you guys are all crooks, I paid a ton of taxes, but I've never really understood how you get revenue, where the revenue comes from, where it's spent, why it's spent, where do my taxes go? They forget about the homestead exemption, things like that allow you or give us a chance. Because if you can take your harshest critic and flip that person, then you're on the road to making yourself more clear and better understood in your community. Yes. So yeah, don't be afraid to put people that can't stand me.
Sure.
But
If
we're
you
not
can
gonna
find one.
select. We're not gonna select all of them, right? Like, how many people total will be on
So
this
if we have
committee?
8
If you have
tables,
those
we're
8
gonna add
tables,
our
8 times
parent,
10, 80.
8 to 10 at each table.
So if Connie, if she wants Gary to participate, I want my daughter, you might not want your wife. I'm not married, so I can't choose a spouse. I just want to put that out there. But I don't think it's going to completely sway. I think we're not going to put people on this committee that are going to not have students' best interests at heart, regardless of where they come from, who they're related to, and they are part of the community. So I think that unless we're going to make a board decision, put it up for a vote, that it is going to be something that we decide individually.
I think it's a discretion of an individual board member. I wouldn't want to dictate who you're going to select. But from my point of view, that is it. I'd rather have somebody that's out there that I don't know have any interest. And if they are, they don't view our school as well, I certainly welcome to come in. Maybe we won't flip them, but at least they'll have a better understanding of how this organization, or not as organization, this whole school system works. Because it's very, very, very complicated. I mean, you have all kinds of, it's like, I call it like a Swiss watch. If you all remember all the little gears and everything, everything has to work together in order for you to tell time. And this is the way the school works. We have all kinds of little gears and things happening at the same time. And at the end of the day, they all come together and provide the education or the resources or the needs that our kids need, as well as our teachers and everybody else. I mean, just lunch in itself is, you think they just hand out the lunch. I mean, it is so well organized, and it has to happen at a precise time. They only have so much time. So it's, but it is a complex organization that I think people don't realize that it's more than just having your student in class and having them instruction. There's others aspects to what's happening in the schools that the community doesn't understand. We on the board are privileged because we get that every time. So it's just like Mr. Nutt says, that has to be communicated to our parents and everybody else in our community.
Mr. Ochoa, you are my wingman today because you just segued into what I was about to talk about, and that is exactly what you just said, that this district is so many moving parts. And the people that come into this room, they probably don't know that. They probably have one part they understand that's relative to them, but they don't understand all the parts. And so when you look at these 7 areas and you add parent and community engagement, we will have a presentation over each of these areas to the entire committee. So they will get an opportunity to learn more about that area. And that's what's so powerful about this, is you're creating capacity in that room of people who don't have enough information. And sometimes that's why people are negative, honestly, because they don't know enough. And so we'll have a captive audience, and we will be able to talk to them about M&O and INS and where the district is financially and all of those transparent things. And then we will have a large swath of people that are work in the district in safety and security who will make those presentations about how we keep our students safe and our teachers safe and our community safe. So I love that you said that because it's so true. They're going to see how all of this works together, and the ultimate priority is student outcomes and student safety, and it all works together. So thank you. I love it.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
About how many names are you asking for from the board?
Let's say, what, 9 tables?
8 tables.
8 tables?
Yes, sir.
If everybody picked 8 people. So if everybody picked 8 people, that would be 7 people at each table would be a board selected, right? That would leave us 3 to accommodate a parent, unless the board would be kind enough to include a parent in there somewhere, a student,
And possibly a staff member.
and a staff member.
That would be the role of the leadership.
So I guess a lot of would have to do with, I mean, you could take care of a lot of these categories just based on the people. So if y'all can do that for us up front, then that'll allow us to kind of fill in the gaps in terms of who else we need to reach out to because they didn't, organically appear. Now, the students, I think, are something we can go out and get that started now.
But a parent, a business member,
Civic leader,
a civic leader?
I will create a rubric for
Okay.
you on a
a
spreadsheet,
That
Klansman.
would be helpful for me.
and that way you can see columns, and you can fill them in. and
Clergy.
put a, indication of where they land in the rubric. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I thought he
that'd be great,
And I'll share
thank
it with
you.
y'all.
I meant one of the Bel Air clans.
Oh, okay.
No, I meant,
Yes,
Yeah, okay, now I get it. A
yes.
Highlander.
I get it. Yeah. No, I meant one of her neighborhood associations that
Yes.
call themselves.
Yeah, they do use that term, and it's kind of scary for some people.
Yeah, just,
Got it. No wonder everybody's looking at me like, what'd you say?
there's just one group of people I really think we should not leave out. I'm sure Mr. Hernandez ran into him like I did during the campaign. It's the people in the community who have no children at the local schools, but they pay taxes. A community member.
Yes, sir. We'll
Okay.
have that as one of our columns, yes, sir. And especially, it's nice when they're senior members of your community, because they have a lot of experience and wisdom, and maybe they did have children in the district at one time, but no longer do, and they're aging in place is what that's called. They're not moving, they're staying here. And so definitely, they're a huge part of your community, so we'll have that column in there. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank Dr. De La Torre for his suggestion of challenging us to find people who may be critical of the district. I was certainly one of those people on the campaign trail, but I feel like Dr. De La Torre and his cabinet and my colleagues have won me over, and now I'm able to communicate to my community members confidently about how fantastic the district is. And I strongly believe that that'll be the overwhelmingly experience, is finding these people with criticisms and helping them understand. I know it's possible, and I really think it could be super impactful. I thank you, Mr. Dwyer, for, those voters are out there big time, and we have to answer to them.
Absolutely.
So-
We have to bring them into the fold because they're not engaged every day like parents and other people are in the schools.
And they have just as much say as whether, all of us keep this position or not. So whether they're a parent or not, it's the same vote.
That's right.
So-
That's right. Thank you.
One of the big indicators from a recent bond that we passed way back when, we have a lot of support from such individuals that had no children in their schools or anything else, but they had that vision, that future vision that says we need to educate our kids because those are going to be our leaders, and so they didn't back out of voting for the bond. They actually supported it very
They embrace
strongly.
it. Yes, that's awesome. Okay, so we will add parent community engagement, and those will be our 8 tables. I'll set up the rubric in a spreadsheet that you can use to work on and add your names, and then the district will then go in and add the remaining that are necessary.
What about contact information? Can you create the
Yes.
rubric so it has their
yes,
email or
Phone
cell, or
number.
email and cell?
Yes.
So we can start creating
The invites.
the invites?
Yes, sir, because when we send the invites, we will send the dates so they can commit to them. They will already know when they are, so they don't have to wonder. We're going to give all of that to them up front, and they'll know the times, locations, all of those things. Yes. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay. So this is an overview of our agendas for those 5 meetings. And just so you have an idea of what we're doing in that room, the first night is a lot about welcome, introductions. I will talk to them about the board workshops that I've done with you all, which is today, and then the second one that we have planned. We will talk about the overview of the strategic action plan and what it is and what our end game is. We will review the priority focus areas so they know what's going on in the room and what everyone is working on. And in fact, each table will have a big sign in the middle that says what their focus area is. And that's smart, because if a focus area across the room wants to go ask them a question, they know exactly where that table is. So we want to identify those members and what area they're working on. And then that night, we will start our presentations. So as I mentioned to you a minute ago, there will be 8, we'll add parent and community engagement, 8 presentations. So let's say the first night we start with safety and security. So our experts in the district will stand up. They'll talk about where we have been, what our past was with safety and security, where we are currently, right now, and where we want to go, what our future goals are. And so they're giving them a good overview of where we are in the district, past, present, future, and that gives the whole room that knowledge. But then that table will get a lot of data about safety and security that not everyone else is going to get, because they're not building out that part of the plan. So the second night, we'll start working on our graduate profile. It's very exciting. We have this big exercise we do together, and there'll be lots of paper around the room like this, and dots and markers and all kinds of stuff that we'll be doing, so they can build a graduate profile and start creating that. The second meeting, more presentations, so more of the same. You'll have, let's say we have financial stability that night, culture and climate, CCMR. They're going to just be learning and learning and learning. Ability to ask questions. We're going to even have a QR code so that if they have remaining questions at the end of the night, they can scan the QR code and type them in, and then we'll answer those before the next meeting. This is an ongoing thing. At any time, if the committee has questions during the process, they can email me. I give them my cell phone number. They can call me. And I'll tell you from my experience with the bond committee, I had many one-on-one meetings with a lot of your constituents. I would come to town early so I could meet with them that were a part of the committee. And I love that, because they want to talk to me. They want me to understand certain things about their communities and the things that happen. And so we will continue those presentations. Then you get down to meeting 3, and we'll have finish up our grad profile, more presentations, and then we'll start talking about gap analysis. And that's what I explained to you earlier. We want to close the gap. And I'll start showing them the template of what they're going to use to really build their plan. And they'll start that night. They'll start thinking about objectives and measurements and action steps. Remember, every table has a very good expert at that table. So when you think of financial stability, obviously be someone very well versed in financial stability and who can help guide the table in questions and supporting them in understanding all of the things about the district. Then meeting 4, it's just a total work session. And they'll sit in this room and they will work on their plan. They'll start putting them on posters, and people will do these things called timeouts, where one table will go to another table and learn what they're doing, and they'll share their information. There's a lot of collaboration in that room. And I teach the committee that they have to be collaborative in nature, and they can't just think about just one thing. They have to think about the whole picture. Finally, meeting 5, we'll come in, we'll finish up the creation of everything, of all the parts of the plan that work together. And then we'll do gallery walks, and we're going to have this great group discussion about where this plan is going and how we're excited that it's all put together. And then we're going to have a celebration that night. And it's so fun, and we'll have some great things for the committee and really honor them and explain to them how important all of this is. Just once again, we focus on students. And then we will go and be presenting the plan to you all for action. And of course, I'm sure you will see it before the board meeting. You will have it in hand. It is a wonderfully executed document that has a true executive summary of the whole process. It has all of the committee members' names so that historically people know who served on it. And then it has all the components of the grad profile. It will contain a plan on a page, which is a great marketing tool for the district. You can put these in every campus so that every campus sees the big key ticket items that are important to move Ysleta ISD forward. And that is our template for our agendas. As I said earlier, we may ebb and flow in this because we want to meet the needs of the committee. But overall, this is the plan we typically use. Yes,
Just
ma'am.
one more question about how long will each meeting be?
2 to 2.5 hours. We don't want to keep them 3 hours because people check out. So typically, we might feed them a light dinner in the beginning so that thank them for their service each night. Start the meeting at 6, end about 8:30. Now, if you ever know me or been in a committee with me, if I say we start at 6, we start at 6. And when 8:30 rolls around, we're out the door. And Lindley's shaking her head. She knows I'm very adamant about time because they're giving of themselves, and keeping them late and all of that and not being organized and having organized agendas is not how I facilitate. I mean, the agendas will be down to the minute. So we will make sure the content is correct that they are given, and it's in a timely manner. And I always tell the committee, you can keep meeting out in the parking lot, but Lizzie's not facilitating the parking lot meeting. So they like that. Questions about the agendas, about what we're doing? Okay, great. Awesome. So here's a slide I want to show you because they're going to see it many times, and this is the gradients of agreement. So when you think about working in a formal committee, there's a lot of collaboration that occurs. And I use this slide because sometimes people think it's either a yes or a no, and that's not the case. There's a lot of gradients in between that. And so are we making big financial decisions in this room? No. Are we making, wide sweeping decisions that, are going to have financial implications? No. And I say that over and over again because this committee is more about the vision of the district and moving the district forward. So I show this because I have to get them to understand that just because they don't absolutely agree with something, they don't have to block it. They can let it keep moving to work itself out in the group, in the table. I tell the committee, not everybody in this room is going to get everything they want, but everybody is going to get something they want. And when you work with adults, you have to reaffirm that because sometimes people are going to walk in here and have very powerful opinions, and they don't want to move off of those. But when we explain that we're working in groups and collaborating, they come around. It's almost like I have to teach them to do group work because they don't do that in their daily life. And then we talk about group decision making. This is my favorite slide that I use in my work. I always say when you have a new topic introduced, everybody diverges to where they want to be, what side of the room they pick, what side of the topic. But then we have this thing called the groan zone. So the reason why we want them to stay at the same table every night with the same people is because we want them to get used to those people and comfortable with them. And that way they'll be open with them and they'll be transparent and they'll talk and they won't be afraid to say the things on their mind. And so that's that groan zone, and then we converge to a decision point. The one thing on this slide that's very powerful is that time with the arrow. Time does not stop for our decisions, so we have to keep moving. And that's why we have timed agendas and a very organized meeting. And that's just respectful to the people who have donated their time to the district. So I asked you to think about some of these items that we're going to go through briefly today. We're not going to workshop this where we're going to sit down and do all of these things. Instead, if you did come up with some ideas, I'd love for you to share those with me via email. and send them to me. I am going to work with leadership to create some of the foundations of these items. And then when we come back to the next session that you do with me, that's going to be the work. That's when we're going to flesh all of this out. Because right now, you have some items that your district uses as tenets, as words and sentences moving forward, explaining the district. But we want to revisit those. We want to see if we're having a new plan, should we update those as well? Should those have a fresh look? Should they be thought about? I mean, you've been through a lot in the past 10 years, right? A lot. So maybe we do need a fresh eye on those items to update them and think about if we're going to have a new plan, maybe we need a new vision, a new mission, things of that nature. So one of those items is going to be core values, and these are tenets shared by stakeholders that drive the organization's culture and commitment. They define what an organization values most, but the values should influence all future decisions. When you think of a district's core values, it's 5 to 8 statements, bulleted sentences. Sometimes they can be more than one word, but short enough to remember, shared by all. So currently, your core values are in paragraph format. They're very bulky, I would say. That is my opinion as a consultant reading these. No one's going to memorize this, right? They're not. They might be on your website somewhere, and you may not even realize those are the core values because they've been there so long. So when you look at core values, this is a lot. So I'm going to show you some examples of core values that I want you to think about for our next time together as we go through and possibly update these. So, and I'll send y'all these via email if you want me to. Yes, ma'am, I'll send them all. Okay, so core values. Let's say we look down at the bottom right. In YISD, we value leading by example, integrity and character, opportunities for lifelong learning, nurturing relationships, striving for excellence. So these things have to be succinct enough to where people can remember them and can use them, right? We don't want to create these if people aren't actually going to use them. So as a district, when you think about core values, what do we stand for? What are things that guide us? What are those values that we really hold near and dear? One, I say you have used the word community about 1,000 times already this morning, right? That's a core value, is including your community, bringing your community into the district. Think about things like that. Think about what is a core value that really means something to Ysleta ISD that has an impact on students, right? Bringing your community into your district, 100% has an impact on your students. So what your homework will be moving forward, I've given you a little taste of it in the email I sent you last time, will be to think about these things. We're going to bring some into the room next time as examples that might be good for you to work from, but we definitely want you to have the ability to revise and edit anything that's brought into the room to the trustees, okay? Questions about core values. Plus, Google's a great instrument. You could Google any school district and see what they're putting out there as their core values, and just to give you an idea. Yes, sir.
Just type in community engagement core value on your AI.
The best will pop up, right? Yeah. Okay. So that's core values. So that's one thing we will do next time. And I want you to know that as I go through all of these are the items that will be presented to the committee the first night. And they're going to know that you all had a hand in this. And it's the foundation of them building the plan. It's almost like their marching orders, right? Okay. The other thing we will work on is mission and vision. So let's think about the difference with those. So a mission statement focuses on the now, the present. It's your statement of purpose. This is what Ysleta ISD does. The vision is in the future. It's a source of inspiration, motivation, tells where you want to be as an organization. There's a difference between those two statements, and we're going to work on those as well. Currently, you do not have a mission statement that's specific to the district. So we need to have one, right? And we're going to put one together, and it's going to be the best one in the state, right? Okay, So it's going to distinguish the district from others. I love it. Love it. It's going to share your statement of purpose and declare your reason for being. Why are we here? And then it's going to state your critical means. So I want you to be thinking about this and thinking about a sentence that really defines that. And we're going to fold what you bring back next time into what we already put together. So these are some examples. The ABC Independent School District, I'm just going to read the first one, graduates every student prepared for higher learning and careers to empower them as knowledgeable and engaged citizens, innovators, and drivers of a robust bicultural economy. So these are the kind of statements you want as a mission. So think about your words that you use a lot in this district, what you value and what means a lot to you, that if no one knows anything about Isleta ISD and they read the mission, now they do know what your mission is as a district. So when we move through this next time, this is the statement I want you to, how I want you to put it together. And like I said, we're going to bring you some examples, but this is the typical way to start that sentence, okay? Then you have your vision, and you have a vision statement. It's pretty lengthy, all right? And I think we couldn't remember when it was put together. Been quite some time.
It's been here for a long time.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
time to visit this.
It's probably Montenegro.
Yeah, I think it was Tony Trujillo when he was introducing the international school at Alicia Chacon.
Gotcha, okay. So when you look at this, right, remember, this is your vision, where you're going. And you can see where yours is here. It's talking about all of your students will graduate, be fluent in languages, prepared and inspired to continue their ed in a college, university, or institution of higher ed, so they become successful citizens. This kind of boxes kids in when you read this, because it really points that everybody's going to a four-year university. So we want to change that, because that's not who you are, and that's not your vision as a school district. So we'll revisit this, bring you some examples, and we'll put it together as a governing body. And then these are just some examples, and I'll send you these to be looking at. You know, I just love, oh, yes, sir.
So, I mean, I'm thinking I'm all stuffed up about my vision or my statement or anything like that. Do I send it to you?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to collaborate with leadership, and we're going to pull any that you send me together, and we're going to put all of these together to bring back at the next session for us to figure out what's the best and one that we can all agree on. That's right, we're going to put them in a blender. I love it. So these are some examples, and you can see they talk about 21st century learning, knowledgeable citizens, innovation, district of excellence, you know, all of those key words that really focus on a vision and where we're moving. And I'll send you this so y'all have it. And then we have our motto. That's our final piece in all of this. It's a short descriptive phrase, represents a set of beliefs, summarizes the district's motivation or intent. And obviously your motto has been the District of Champions. I know you have a lot of marketing material with that. You know, if this is not something you want to touch because it's sacred, I totally understand. But it's up for discussion as well. Yes, sir, Mr. Ochoa.
The current model, I think we've already established that for several years, so everybody kind of recognizes
Okay.
when we state that motto. So we got to keep that in mind.
Yes, sir.
That precedence has already taken a foothold of what the community is. If you say the District of Champions, oh,
They
it's
know.
Isleta.
They know.
Well, it's competing with the district. And my only thought would be that the District of Champions tends to be driven by how successful we've been on the athletic field and court, and academically. So that might be a good conversation. Do we keep with the district? Do we go with the District of Champions? They're both very well recognized. They're actually two great contributions from this governance.
Well, for one thing, the district has to be in there somewhere.
I like the District of Champions. It really shows us how we're really separate from everybody else. We're number one, we're A-rated district of champion.
Yeah.
We have a lot of teams academically that in science that are our only ones that are going out, District of Champions. And then you have the athletics that we have a lot of kids competing in district, state events, and there we have District of Champions.
Yeah, we also
And
have.
arts, the fine arts, yes. You
Yeah.
know,
Fine
our
arts,
our
that's
band,
right, he beat me to it.
our band, our mariachis, District of Champions. So I like District of Champions.
Okay. Okay, good. So we'll revisit and just, come to a good consensus the next time we meet. But I just wanted to show you these items so you're aware of the 4 things we're going to work on next time. And I'd like for you to put some thought into them before we get back together. And so really your homework before I see you again, and I was a teacher, so that's normal for me. I'm going to create the chart that you're going to work on to add your names with the rubric and their contact info. And then I will send you all of these slides so you have the examples. And I will want you to send me your 4 items of what you want to see us come back and put together and blend together, right? Yes, okay. And then these are just some other examples of the mottos that, that we talked through a little bit. And I'll send that in the email as well. So we have come to the end of our time together today. I hope this wasn't too belaboring for you. I hope you enjoyed it. And I really want to stress to you just how honored I am to be a part of this process. I tell Dr. De La Torre and Dr. Chacon this many times. I feel like this is my second home coming here to El Paso. I bring my daughter here once a year. She loves it. We just love your community, love your people. And I just love the fact that you are so vested in the district and in the success that you want to see your students get to. So I appreciate that. And at this time, if y'all have any comments or any suggestions as we move forward, I'd love to hear them.
You got their attention.
Catherine has a comment.
Discussing that it already says the district, to Dr. La Torre's point.
Right. The district. I'll never forget the first time I came. And everybody started saying that. The district. I was like, oh, I see where this is going. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for coming here today. It is an opportunity for us to revisit our strategic plan. Where we are now, where we were then, is very different. And I foresee where 5 years from now, it's going to be even totally different than what we, it's just hard to predict the future. But I think as long as we move on forward one step at a time and to reach our goals for success of our district and our kids and everybody that is involved with our schools, that, we don't know where we're going to be 5 years from now. But I hope that we are together in the same goals, the same visions that we all shared here today, that the success of our kids is what's important. And that is whatever means it takes. Of course, the financial part is always a big part of it, but I think we have good managers of our financial situation, and I think that's going to continue through the future. So I just want to thank you for coming here to get us together to start thinking of our future.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We're going to get the school year started, I believe, July 31st.
Yep.
I keep saying the 29th. It's my dad's birthday. July 29th. Once we get it going, we'll see you guys in August for meeting 2. So you've got a lot of activity going on in each of your respective districts right now, a lot of recognitions, celebrations. You'll be very involved. You've got a Teacher of the Year gala coming up. You've got graduations. For those of you who haven't had the experience of 10 graduations back to back, it's an amazing it's an amazing experience. Then you've got SLI or NALEO those are the 2 June conferences that are available to you. July is yours to do whatever you want.
I want to change that, because that's my birthday and we never get to celebrate together.
You want to change and have something happen in July because it's your birthday? What day is your birthday?
The 23rd.
The 23rd, okay. Make note that we want to do something on or around the 23rd for Catherine's birthday.
We'll have our board meeting on July 23rd.
We already do. That day is no board meeting, so in honor of,
That's the honor.
there you go.
And then we're off and running. So I appreciate all of you coming on a Saturday morning. We wanted to make sure that you had most of your Saturday and all of your Sunday to be with your family and friends. So you're the only one that can close it.
I move to adjourn.
Hey,
Second.
you jumped the gun.
I so move.
May I have a motion to adjourn? No, we
Go
didn't.
ahead, go ahead.
All right, so moved.
I'm
You
the
gotta
only
let
one
Connie
that can
say the
that.
famous words.
Thank y'all.
Ay, ay, ay.